Welcome to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we equipped you to more effectively lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. Each week, we help you sharpen your leadership acumen by cracking open the playbooks of dynamic leaders who are doing big things in their professional endeavors. And now your host, leadership tactics and organizational development expert, Karen Farrell Rhodes.
Hello, my superstars. This is Karen, and welcome to another episode of the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast. We're so happy that you joined us again this week, and we have an absolutely tremendous guest on today's show. We're pleased to welcome Ms. Sheena Yap, who's the author of the Wall Street Journal bestselling book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within. Isn't that a fascinating title? You know why I had to have her on the show, right? She is also the host of the podcast by the same name, The Tao of Self-Confidence. And Sheena is really passionate and dedicated about closing the gender confidence gap and helping lay the groundwork for them to achieve the professional desires that they dream of. And so we're so happy to have her on the show today. So welcome to the podcast, Sheena.
Hey, Karen, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here to just chat more about confidence, leadership, and everything else.
Absolutely. And you and I both know that, having a high level of confidence is very, very important in appearing as a very strong and perceptive leader. And so I can't wait for us to dig into some of your writings, experience, and findings. But before we do that, we always love to learn just a little bit more about our guests. So just for as much as you feel comfortable, will you give us a sneak peek into your life outside of work?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in the Philippines. I moved to Toronto, Canada when I was 7. And all my work really stemmed from my upbringing in Toronto. Even though Toronto is one of the most multicultural cities in the world, when it comes to media, there wasn't anybody in the media that looked like me. So it was really hard for me to imagine myself to be anything else. I felt like I needed to show up a certain way. I needed to look a certain way, even have a different name to feel more accepted. And it wasn't until my 20s when I dyed my hair back from blonde to my original hair color where I finally embraced me and my cultural background.
Oh, good for you.
In 2015, when I was dealing with a lot of confidence issues, I was looking on the internet to see if there's any resources that catered to specifically Asian women's confidence. And there wasn't any. So part of me felt like I was the only one dealing with these things. And I know I wasn't. And I also realized that I still wanted to build something that really created better representation, especially for Asian women. I wanted to dismantle the stereotype that we're seen as quiet, submissive, and obedient. And so I started the podcast, Tao of Self-Confidence, in September of 2015. I've interviewed over 800 women on this topic. And as much as I love podcasting and how podcasting is a labor of love, it's still a very small, it's still a very small platform compared to other platforms. And so I knew I needed to dive into different types of media to build more visibility and representation. And that's when books came into play. So I had a co-authored book called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which highlights the stories of 18 Asian women, sharing their journey of how they were able to forge their own path, overcome obstacles, and thrive. And it's also part of a book series called Women Who Boss Up. And that led me to writing my first book with Wiley, which is one of the biggest publishers in the world or in America. My book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within, which became a Wall Street Journal bestselling book. And now I'll have my upcoming book, which is called Bridging the Confidence Gap, How Empowered Women Change the World. So for me, it's really important to empower women, to have more women in leadership, because there's been research and numbers saying that when there's more women in the leaderboards or just in leadership in every industry, everybody wins. And this really stemmed from a report from the World Economic Forum stating that to achieve full gender parity, the earliest we can achieve it is in the year 2154. That's actually delayed now. So it's delayed to 2158. And at this current rate, I feel like it's going to keep on delaying. So we definitely have to do something for this to actually go the opposite direction.
Right. Well, first of all, congratulations on your success thus far. That is absolutely amazing. And I believe it probably resonated because it's such personal topic that so many, not just women, struggle with, a lot of people struggle with. But your focus on women probably has really made a difference, in a lot of people's lives. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, Sheena, I'd love for you to share what are, because you've, interviewed so many between the podcast and, gathering information and data for your book. I'd love for you to share, first of all, some trends that you're seeing, root causes of why women in particular have challenges with confidence. And then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think it's really there's a lot of things, right? First of all, society, we're seen as the superwoman of everything. We're taught to act a certain way. When it comes to cultural traditions or certain traditions that really hurts us, and yet we still continue to follow it, not realizing that it's actually hurtful to do those traditions. And of course, men and women are built differently, right? Men have been trained to be confident all their life, while women, we start actually having confidence issues as young as 6. So can you imagine that, as young as 6 years old? And so, I mean, all these factors do contribute to why there's a huge confidence gap between men and women, right? As men, men will just figure it out as they go and they do something. Half the time they're not even sure what they did. As women, we pre-plan, we over-prepare, but yet something still holds us back, and it's really how we perceive ourselves. And that's really a big thing, right? Because if we don't see our value, we don't see our worth, we're not going to go out there and take action and go out there and make things happen. And time again, this has happened because of the outside factors also that we deal with, right? There's certain
Mm-hmm.
things we're not supposed to do because it's not deemed as ladylike, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, we tend to resist more, even when it comes to like dating, right? It's not usually the woman that makes the first move, it's the men. So like, if a man's at a club, his one goal is to get one number, just one number from a girl, right? He'll go through 100 no's just to get that one number. So rejection doesn't phase them because they practiced it, right? Just by going up to the club or the bar, asking, hey, can I have your number? Hey, can I have, because to him, it's like, he knows he's going to get no. So it just keeps on going
Keeps on
until
trying.
someone says yes, right?
It's a
Meanwhile, if
numbers
we get our
game.
first, meanwhile, if we get our first rejection, it's like the end of the world, right? We think, we're no good. We're going to go and sit and cry or eat ice cream or, it's a lot harder for us to get past through it. And so these little things make a huge difference, right? That people don't notice, and I talk a little bit more about that in my upcoming book, right? We also go through a lot of biases until today, unfortunately, pay
Yeah.
gap, the gap in many industries, just the role of men and women in the family situation, like all these also contribute as well. So, I mean, if you ask me that question, I feel like the whole half hour will be talking about all the different things. So, but that's like some of them that would
Gotcha.
contribute to it.
In your book, can you share maybe one or two tips with our audience on what they can do to kind of raise their level of self confidence?
Yeah, depending on the books. So my first book, The Tao of Self Confidence, it talks about trauma. So I think it's really important to learn to work through our traumas, right? I have a lot of people asking me how to build confidence, and I can totally tell you how to build confidence. But I think it's more important to work through the root causes as to why you're feeling low self confidence, why you're feeling low self worth, because trauma plays a huge role in our lives, right? Whether it's
Yes.
childhood trauma, PTSD, sexual trauma, money trauma, that all plays into our confidence. And so if we don't work through it, then we're going to still be stuck in the same situation.
Good
A
point.
great example is like for me in the Philippines, I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo. And so I literally had to move to another school and redo kindergarten because I colored outside the lines of one photo. So can you imagine
Wow.
that? And that stemmed all through my adult life because I always thought everything I touched was an instant failure. I just kept thinking I was a failure. And so I was able to work through that like 30 years after, better late than never, but that it's really important to work through your traumas.
But we're still talking
And
about it today. That's how
yeah,
deep and
yeah.
it resonated with you.
Yeah. And for my upcoming book, one of the chapters that I dedicated on was self promotion, right? Because as women, we're taught to, we're not taught to go out there and promote ourselves. In fact, we're taught that self promotion is tacky, is not ladylike. But especially if you're in business for yourself, like we're going to have to learn to promote ourselves. We're going to have to learn to share about our products and services, how it can help someone for the better. And so for me, it's empowering, right? And
Yeah.
I've shared different tips there in the book that you can self promote without feeling tacky, or, if you still feel that way, there's so many different ways to go around it
Yeah.
that doesn't feel tacky. So, like, one example is like product placement, right? If you watch movies, if you watch K dramas, I mean, you see products placed in the movies all the time, whether it's car, subway, and that's like a multi-million-dollar industry. People don't even realize what a big industry that is. So, even
Yes.
something as like product placement, you could do it without even stating it. You can just like place the product in front of people. So, that's one
Absolutely.
tip. Yeah.
I love that. If I can I share a tip too?
Yeah, for sure. Of course,
Um,
it's your show, of course.
I don't want to take your thunder because you've been so
No, no,
kind to be a
no.
guest, but wanted to
But
kind
we're
of
both
pop because
we
but I was going to share that, because quite a few of our listeners are like leaders in the workplace, like from corporations or companies that they work for. And a topic that comes up a lot is, wanting to be on the short list for, a promotion or the next level. But especially women are very shy, and I'm stereotyping here, but in general tend to be quite hesitant or shy about just what you said about promoting themselves. And one of the things that we speak about a lot is a way to self promote is arming your manager and your skip level manager with information about your contributions for the last quarter or this half year, giving them some bullet points and talking points that are top of mind that they can use when they're, thinking about the next level of leader or succession planning or who to give an opportunity to. That's kind of a no showboat way of saying, hey, I just want to keep you informed, because they want to always get an update, on what you're doing and what the level of your performance. So, by sending a note or having a coffee and having, 2 or 3 bullet points of how you've made, great contributions, that can help stay top of mind for them. And most people find that as a non salesy way of promoting yourself and still, giving you self-confidence to stand up and speak for yourself so you can be your best selves at work. So that was just one that kind of popped for me. Have you heard of that as well, or do you think anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I actually share that as a tip, just having
Oh,
like a
great.
list of
Yeah.
things that you've done so that when promotion does come up, there's a reason why you are the person for that. Of course,
Yeah.
there's a reason why people want to promote you, and sometimes we need the proof, the backup, the bullet put proof points to show that, hey, I do deserve this promotion because I've done this, this, and this, and the result of this, this, and this has been this, this, and that. So yeah, it just gives more proof for you to be seen as that leader to go to the next level.
That's amazing. Now, so can you also share a bit about your company and how you use your platform to really help empower people and organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I help, companies and organizations with confidence workshops, talks, consulting, just kind of helping them develop the confidence skills to go out there and be a leader. People don't realize confidence plays a huge role in that, right? If you don't have
It
the confidence,
does.
you're not going to go out there and make things happen. And so strategy is not really as important as the mindset, right? I think once you've figured out the mindset, you really work on yourself, then the strategy will be like, it'll be a lot easier to do, because sometimes we think it's the strategy that's stopping us. Really, it's how we see ourselves that's stopping us.
That's
I
right.
know I've been there. I've seen a lot of people just not see their own capabilities, and it's such a shame, right? Including myself, I'm the same, right? We all have blind spots, and that's why you
Absolutely.
need a second and third pair of eyes to pinpoint those blind spots so we can tweak it, and you can go out there and be your best self. Or corporations can go out there and help their employees, or organizations can empower, their audience, the individuals out there who need that just small shift to just move forward.
Absolutely. And I would chime in and say that you shouldn't stereotype people based on their personalities or their mannerisms. Meaning, for me personally, I'm a over the chart extrovert. I get my energy from people and talking and interacting. But I may appear outwardly confident, and many times I am. But I do have moments of imposter syndrome as well, as I'm sure it could be said for those who are introverts. And all the personality types in between. So just noting that we're all human is, I think, very important as well. Don't you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I still deal with a lot of confidence issues too, right? Like, even though I talk about confidence, I mean, there's days when I'm not confident, where I'm going through things where I'm not okay. And, being in an Asian culture and growing up in an Asian household, there's a lot of things I still have to unlearn until today because it's been ingrained in my head for forever, right? Because
Yeah,
it's the same set of rules that's been passed on from generation to generation to generation. And so,
absolutely.
I'm the one, like then I have to learn to break that cycle. And if you're like the first one, you're like, how do I do this? What do I do to do this? Like we're figuring this out as we go. And so just because some people might see me, they think I'm confident. Half the time I'm like, oh my gosh, should I do this? Should I press post? Should I also go through imposter syndrome, self doubt, all these things? The difference is I've equipped myself with tools and resources to get me out of it so that I can move
That's great.
faster. I mean, there's nothing wrong with feeling self doubt. These are all normal, valid feelings that we go through. And if we suppress it, then it's going to get worse. It's better we just kind of feel it out, honor it, so that we can learn to let it go. And then new good feelings and energy will come through.
Love that. I love that. Well, Sheena, what we always try to do as part of the podcast is, leave our listeners with at least one tip or nugget at a minimum that they can take away from every guest. And you've been so fantastic in sharing a few already. But if there was one thing or suggestion that you would want to make sure all our listeners know about and remember past this podcast episode, what would it be?
I think the one tip I would tell people is that just take small steps. You don't have to make big leaps to make big changes. It's actually the small, actionable daily steps that yield the big results. So, an example I love giving is like writing a book because everyone wants to write a book. And, a lot of people are like, I want to write a book, but it's so hard. It's so daunting. Like, a lot of people have delayed it. I've heard people who's on year 7 and still on page 3, or,
Yeah,
they've been thinking about it for 20 years. And
right.
so if writing a book is something you really want to do, just set a small goal, right? Like
Yeah.
just say for a whole year straight, I'm going to write 1 page a day. Just one
Yeah.
page a day. And if you can't do 1 page, just do half a page, whatever it is, right? But we're going to stick with 1 page a day. So if you were to write 1 page a day for a whole year straight,
What
you'll
would
have
it?
one full book or even 2 books because
That's
you've been
true.
able to make that consistent daily action, that small, consistent daily action. Like I was able to interview over 800 women because I didn't do all like interview 800 women all at once. This is all over almost a 10-year course. So, I just did it one woman at a time. So, just take the small actionable daily steps, whatever that may look like for you.
For you in your work environment or whatever you're focused on, right? In your own space. That's amazing. What, in your opinion, are some of the, well, we talked about culture and back upbringing, but what is a myth around self confidence that's out there that you would love to get corrected or turn around?
I think it's just how self confidence looks. I mean, when I first started, you always thought you had to show up a certain way. Like confidence was you showing up a certain way, and it's really not. When I think about it, confidence is how you show up, right? So that
Correct.
means being your authentic self. And
That's
so
right.
if you're an introvert, that's totally fine. You can be an introvert and still be confident. And
Exactly.
so that was the misconception that I had, and I'm doing, and with the podcast, learning to dismantle by showing all these different personalities, building confidence, showing you different ways of building confidence so that you can relate to at least one person out of it, out of over 800 women.
That's true. That's true. And it could look differently probably in different environments as well, right? How I feel self confident in raising my family might be different than how I feel tackling a very complex initiative at work, right? It could be different things in different environments.
For sure. Like I'm confident in talking, but I'm not
Mhm.
confident in dancing. So
Yeah, right. Exactly. It definitely does. Well, Sheena, were there any other major points that you wanted to share with our listeners before we ask you our signature question?
I think we're pretty good. I think
O-
we've covered everything. So yeah, let's go with the questions that you have.
Okay, wonderful. Well, as you know, my firm did research on high potential leaders and organizations on what were some of the key things they did to execute to lead at the top of their game. And that's where the book came from. But out of that, there were 6 buckets of activities that they were always mindful of. And you were so kind to share, I'm sorry, 7 buckets. And that you were so kind to share that leading with courageous agility really resonated with you. And for my newer listeners, courageous agility is all about having the courage and the fortitude to take calculated risk, but still move forward, even if it's baby steps, especially if the future is uncertain or unclear. So basically, when you boil it down to is having the courage to still move forward. And no matter if you have to pivot or not, but still try to take those baby steps forward. So curious minds want to know, Sheena, why courageous agility really resonated with you.
Yeah, I mean, for so long in this, like, forging your own path, you're always looking for the secret to success, right? Like, what's the real secret to success? They think there's
Exactly.
like this vault with like the secret to everything,
Yeah,
when there isn't, other than like having that courageous agility, being persistent, being resilient regardless of your circumstances, because you're going to have times where you get rejected 100 times, or you're going to fall down, or something happens. And so you have to be courageous enough to get back up and keep moving forward, if you believe in what you're doing, of course, right? I
sure.
mean, it's not always easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Being your own boss is not easy. Like, you know, sometimes Instagram paints this like picture of like having the fancy cars and things like that. But it took, years to get to that place, right? Like when
Yeah,
people are like, well, I made $90,000 in 30 days. I'm like, that's great. But people don't realize the struggle of the 10 years that that person went through to be able to do, 90,000 in 30 days. I'm just making an example. So
sure.
we see time and time again successful people, how long it took them to get to where they are, the rejections, the many rejections, the many times they've fallen down, the many times, like athletes, the many times they've been injured, the many times that they missed the shots, things like that. And so
Right.
even myself, right, I have to remind myself, like, just because you got rejected today, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can keep moving forward. You got a result. You're going to have more no's than yes in this journey. And so
That's
that's
right.
why it takes a lot of courageous agility to go out there and keep doing it. Or else, like, if you're not, like, then you're just going to give up and just not do it. So there's no real secret to success other than you just have this innate, like, ability to keep moving forward, to keep on going regardless of the circumstances.
Oh, I love that. That is so wonderful. That's a mic drop right there. It's a wonderful piece of advice. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives on that. Now, of course, we'll have a ton of information about you in our show notes, your bio link, all kinds of great ways and that people can try to find you and keep tabs of what you're doing. But before I let you go, could you please share when your next book is coming out if it hasn't already? And then also want to give you airtime to also share where they can find out more about you, your speaking, and your company.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, my newest book, Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World, is available for pre-order. It's coming out in May of 2025, but you can pre-order it now. And
Okay.
if you can send me a copy of your receipt, I also have some pre-order exclusive bonuses, just for, a simple thank you for taking that action. So you can pre-order it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Indigo, and other book retailers worldwide. You can check out my website, sheenayapchan.com, if you want to reach out for services or speaking engagements. You can also, I have a free self confidence personality test that you can take as well. That's free to take. You
Nice.
can also check out my podcast, A Tao of Self Confidence, on all major podcast platforms like Spotify, Google. Oh, no, there's no more Google.
Now
Spotify,
I know they
YouTube.
just closed down.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts. You can also connect with me on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. But if you forgot anything I mentioned, oh, and also the book, my current book, The Tao of Self Confidence, that's available to order on also all major book retailers. But if you forgot anything that I mentioned, just Google my name, Sheena Yapchan, because I'm the only Sheena Yapchan on the internet.
Oh, are you sure? Are you positive?
I'm sure.
That's
Yes,
rare.
I'm positive.
All right, listeners, where you heard that, just Google Sheena Yap Chan. It will pop up and all of her information about her. And I'm sure you'll be able to track her down and hopefully get to meet her. And for those of you that have, teams and companies that are really interested in helping to build self-confidence, especially if you're female employees, but to everyone as well. I definitely think you should check out her offerings, her workshops, and her speakers reel and everything. So definitely check her out. But Sheena, we thank you so much for the gift of your time. It was fantastic having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be here today.
Oh, awesome. And much continued success to you.
Same to
And
you.
thank you to listeners for the gift of your time as well. We know that there are literally millions of other podcasts that you could be listening to, and we do not take your patronage lightly. We truly appreciate you. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Similar to Sheena, we're a variety of platforms. There's bound to be one you can find us on to follow us. And please be sure to share our podcast with just one friend, because by doing so, together we can all learn how to better lead at the top of our game. Take care and see you next week. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we help you lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. You can check out the show notes, additional episodes, bonus resources, and also submit guest recommendations on our website at leadyourgamepodcast.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn by searching for the name Karen Rhodes, with Karen being spelled Karan. And if you like the show, the greatest gift you can give would be to subscribe and leave a rating on your podcast platform of choice. This podcast has been a production of Shockingly Different Leadership, a global consultancy which helps organizations execute their people, talent development, and organizational effectiveness initiatives on an on-demand project or contract basis. Huge thanks to our production and editing team for a job well done. Goodbye for now.